Small business is big business. The sponsor of today's episode, Busey Bank, understands that small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy. For more than 150 years, Busey has remained a dedicated partner to those businesses and entrepreneurs who bring vibrancy to the local community. Through sound advice and simplified solutions, Busey proudly supports small businesses. For an array of business solutions tailored to your specific needs, visit busey.com, busey.com. And if you're seeking a business acquisition loan, be sure to reach out to the head of their SBA group, Steve Lazowitz. Steve's somebody I've known for almost 15 years. He's one of the best SBA bankers out there, bar none. And you can reach Steve at steve.lazowitz@busey.com. That's Steve, S-T-E-V-E, .Lazowitz, L-A-S-I-E-W-I-C-Z @busey.com.
Looking to buy, sell, or grow your business to position it for a sale? As the owner and managing partner of Sun Acquisitions, Domenic Rinaldi has personally been involved in over 300 M&A transactions. He has seen and done it all, consulting with large and small businesses across a broad range of industries. On M&A Unplugged, he'll interview buyers, sellers, and their advisors about their experiences scaling, selling, and acquiring businesses. On every episode, you will get key learnings, but most importantly, you will be better prepared for your own acquisition or sale. This is M&A Unplugged with your host, Domenic Rinaldi.
M&A Unplugged community, as we manage through this current COVID crisis, perhaps more than ever, we could all benefit from a great coach or mentor to navigate these uncharted waters. Today, I am being joined by one of America's top-ranked business coaches, Loren Fogelman. Loren is on HubSpot's annual list of the world's top 22 business coaches and has delivered talks and workshops across the U.S. Loren is also the author of 2 Amazon bestsellers, The Winning Point, How to Master the Mindset of Champions, and The Success Solution Break, Through Limiting Beliefs for Business Success. Loren, welcome to M&A Unplugged. I appreciate you taking time to share some of your knowledge with our audience today.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to our conversation and really how we can best serve your audience.
That's great. Loren, spoken like a true coach, by the way. So why don't we start with, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your background and how you got into coaching and then how you got to this place.
Mm-hmm. I believe it's an evolution. I never started out saying, I want to grow up and focus on how to price services and help other entrepreneurs be profitable. However, I did grow up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents taught me that you either live to work or work to live. And they really went into the work to live type of model, which gave me a great foundation for my path also. What I found is that my education gave me all the tools and the skills that I need to do what I do with helping clients, being able to grow profitable businesses, for having all of the pieces in place to understand what value is and how that applies to business. But during my education, they actually prepared me to be an employee as opposed to an employer or an entrepreneur. As a result of that, I had to go out afterwards and invest my own time, money, and energy in figuring out 3 main things: how to network and be able to create connections or be able to attract clients to me, how to be able to price my services, because I didn't want to get paid by the hour. I thought that there was a better way. And then how to do the sales part when I didn't want to be salesy. Therefore, I've been on this journey of networking, pricing, and sales, because not only did it benefit me, but being able to have those skills benefits business owners all around.
Yeah, without a doubt. And speaking specifically about sales, I mean, having been in M&A for as long as I have, one of the recurring themes that I see in most businesses is that they fail to really build out a successful sales and marketing function. Usually the owner, had some particular expertise and they built their business, or they bought something and didn't come from that background, and the sales and marketing usually is a stepchild, and as you and I both know, I mean, it's the lifeblood of a business. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what factors typically influence sales and a sales conversation? How do you approach that with clients?
Well, the first thing I want to just highlight that you mentioned, because I think it's really important, is marketing and sales are two different things. However, they're both important because with marketing, you're creating leads and really starting to attract people to you, which is great. But if you don't know how to enroll them into working with you or the next step, then you have a sales problem. Whereas other people are great at the closing part, but they don't know how to do the attracting part. Therefore, they really both work very well together, but they're not one and the same thing. I think that that's one of the mistakes that a lot of business owners make. The other thing that I see is that they don't have a system. Because they don't have a system in place, they are doing things in their sales process a little bit differently every single time. It's hard to be able to fine tune it and really get the best results possible if you're winging it every single time you get into a sales conversation or someone comes into your sales funnel. Therefore, I believe that there's a step-by-step system that any business owner, from a solopreneur to large corporations, need to have from very first engagement and all the way through to continue to qualify people and know where they're at in their stage of readiness for taking that next step as they're moving through the funnel. And then you're going to actually get better results.
Yeah, I mean, that's a point really well taken. Sales should be no different than manufacturing or engineering, right? Which are all driven by processes, right? And sales is no different. I think that is a really, really good point.
Well, I want to go with what you just put out there also with the manufacturing part, is that if you look at manufacturing, and it's true for other businesses too, there's always going to be a bottleneck every single time. As soon as you fix one bottleneck, there's going to be another one. And the only way that you can become more efficient in the production part is to become aware of the bottleneck and be able to fix that bottleneck. That's true in the sales process also. When you actually have a system, is that you can eventually figure out where the nuances are that you can adjust in order to improve your level of effectiveness. But the only way you can do it is if you have a system.
Yeah. So how do you get owners to buy into the fact that they need a system? Where do you personally start with owners when they call you, or you've been introduced to them? What's the first step there?
What I look at with the owners that I work with is that I want to help them create what I call a value business. The value business has three different components to it. The first one is personal value. You have to connect with your self-worth before you can expect anybody else to see the value of what you or your service has to offer. The second component is value pricing, where you separate your fees from time, because I firmly believe that an hourly rate, the billable hour, is unfair to you as well as to your clients. Plus, it disregards your highest value, which is your intellectual property or your expertise, as opposed to the actual steps that you take to achieve that outcome for your client or get that result. And then the third one is how to have a value conversation instead of a sales conversation, because the majority of entrepreneurs that I work with, they don't like the sales part. It is uncomfortable for them. They see themselves then in being a hunting position. Most of them don't want to be chasing. They're more relationship focused because they're in service-based businesses, and they want to be in a sales conversation that's more nurturing than chasing, but then they don't know how to do the close part. And so I teach them how to have a value conversation where you don't have to sell. And if you set it up correctly, your clients actually ask you naturally, how does this work?
Yeah, I think that's so important. So, how do you do that with clients? And every business is different, right? I mean, you have a service-based business or you have a product. So you've got to really approach each business individually. How do you go about breaking that down with a client?
What I see is and I work primarily with service-based businesses, therefore I'm going to say that my answers probably apply to the other ones also, but my focus is usually service-based businesses. And what I see is first someone's going to be reaching out to you. What you want to do at that point is have them answer a couple questions before they get on your calendar to see if they're actually a good fit or not. This means that you're always qualifying to see if it's someone that might be ready to take that next step. If the answers to their questions look like they're a good fit, then you go ahead and schedule an appointment to actually speak with them. If they're not a good fit, then go ahead and maybe give them a resource or give them something that will help them to move forward so that eventually they are a good fit. Or it might be that they're just not an ideal client for your business, and then you want to be able to actually give them a resource that moves them in a different direction, which is fine also. Once you have them on the calendar and you're in a conversation with them, you want to have a very specific guided conversation. The conversation is going to focus on three different parts. It's going to look at asking what I call quantitative questions. And this is the ones that are how much? How much is it costing you not having this solution? How much can you potentially earn if we get this working? And it gets them really connected to the amount of money maybe that they're potentially losing because they have a problem and they've been tolerating. And it also gets them aware of the value of being able to move forward with a solution. So those are the quantitative questions. And then you want to ask qualifying questions, which go more into the emotional side of it. And this applies whether you're a financial advisor, an accountant, a realtor, a marketer. You want to have them get connected to the emotional part of the frustration, not knowing which is the best route to take, or feeling that they're distracted and not actually being able to focus on the things that will advance their business, or what's the cost of tolerating that. The reason that the qualifying questions, which dig into the emotions, are so important is because people make a decision to move forward based on an emotion, and then they justify it from logic. Therefore, they're going to feel that you can help them. They feel connection to you. They start to gain trust in your process because of the questions. And then that will influence whether they decide to move forward with you or not. Then the third one is what I call qualitative. And with the qualitative ones, it's about asking quality of life, because when there's a problem going on in one part of their life, let's say their business, it usually overflows into the personal part of their life. And when there's something going on in their personal life, it usually overflows into their business also. We want them to become aware of what is the cost of continuing to tolerate this and how has it impact other parts of their life. Maybe they're not as emotionally available for their spouse, or that they are giving up some other very important personal activities because there's more work that needs to be done, or they're dealing with this problem which is not resolved, and therefore it's affecting their efficiencies and how effective they are. Therefore, we're talking about three different types of questions: the quantitative, which goes into the numbers; the qualifying, which goes into the emotional part; and then the qualitative, which goes into the quality of life aspects.
Yeah, and what I love about this guided conversation framework that you're talking about, not once did you mention talking about what your company offers, what services you offer, how you could solve a solution, a problem. This is all about staying focused on the client. What are their issues? What matters to them? And sometimes they don't know. And so you really need to be prepared to ask great questions, right? So you could bring this out.
Absolutely. There's 2 points you made that I want to highlight is if you want them to have information about your company, send that to them prior to the conversation. It could be when you're confirming the appointment. You can go ahead and send some type of information, whether it's a video, a PDF, whatever that might be, maybe even an interview like you and I are doing, that helps them get some awareness about your company and the benefits. That way, when they're in this conversation with you, it's really all about them, where you don't have to pitch yourself. This is positioning you and taking the position of being a trusted advisor. When you're a trusted advisor, you are coming from the position of doing what's in the client's best interest as opposed to your best interest, which is very novel, gets their attention. They very much appreciate it. And when it's a really good fit, they will naturally ask you, how does this work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to wind back just a little bit. You talked about qualifying prospects and potential clients. And I'm thinking about a conversation that I had yesterday, and I'm in need of a particular type of service right now. And I reached out to somebody, and he was gracious enough to give me 30 minutes of his time. At the end of the 30 minutes, he said, "Look, I'm not the solution for you." One, I really applauded that. I mean, most people try to fit, a square peg in a round hole. But I was also left the meeting thinking, wow, that's 30 minutes he'll never get back again. He probably could have asked me 3 or 4 questions up front and filtered me out. Could have still helped me because he actually gave me a nice referral. But when you work with clients and you go through this qualification process with them, is that something they can do online? Is that a conversation? What's your advice there to clients?
There's a couple of different ways. It depends on how your business is set up. One way is that when they first reach out to you, like I said, you want to have them answer a couple of questions to be able to see actually whether they're a good fit for your service or not. That's the first thing. Is I always am having them answer questions.
And is there a preferred method for doing that? I mean, is it okay to do that over an email exchange or?
Basically, I send them to a page inside of my website.
I see.
And there is a Google form there, a doc, where it's a questionnaire and they answer the questions there. And then Google immediately emails me the answers. So it's all automated.
Oh, that's great.
The other thing that I do when I'm not sure if it's a truly qualified prospect or not, then I will actually have one of my team members do an initial 15-minute consult with them before they get on my calendar.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And that way, somebody else is going through some initial qualifying questions. If they look like they're a good fit, they get on my calendar for a longer conversation. If they're not a good fit, we give them a resource, we bless them, we send them on their way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important because, I mean, you could easily spend a half hour here, 45 minutes there, and all of a sudden your day is gone and you really didn't move the needle in a meaningful way.
Well, yes and no, because even though this person took the higher road as a trusted advisor, not offering you a service, I see it as good business karma. Mm-hmm. That, first of all, he made a good impression on you, enough for you to have a conversation with me about this now. That it is going to come back in some way or another, because that's probably how he treats his clients also, is that he deeply cares about his people and he wants to do what's in their best interest. I believe that that's a great business model.
Yeah, look, I walked away from that discussion thinking, wow, that guy just gave me 30 minutes of his time and a great referral. And, hopefully I'll be able to pay it back to him at some point in time. So I think to your point right there, I'd look to feed him some business if I could in the future, without a doubt.
Exactly. Therefore, I never go away from one of these conversations if someone's not a good fit already yet, feeling like I wasted my time. I just see it as an investment in the greater good, and it comes back to you in some form or another.
Yeah, without a doubt. As long as you're doing the proper pre-qualification
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. So, Loren, we've talked a lot about value, but value is not equal for everybody. How do you approach that?
What I believe is that the mistake that most entrepreneurs make regarding having a sales conversation is they believe value is from their perspective because we invested so much time, energy, money into developing our expertise in our profession. Therefore, we think that that thing that we do, the product that we sell, the service that we offer is the thing that our clients value. However, what we want to do really is step into our clients' shoes and look at value from their perspective. Their value of us has nothing to do with the systems, the product, or the service necessary. Their perspective is about the outcome and the solution. The other thing that has to happen with value during this conversation, that's why I teach about having a value conversation instead of a traditional sales conversation, is your client, your prospective client needs to believe that what they have to gain is greater than the price you're asking. And that's an unusual concept at first. But if you do high ticket sales where you are offering something that's a significant investment for them, they have to believe that they have more to gain or they will make more money because they invested in your service than if they choose not to.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And so you mentioned early on in the conversation that it's one thing to have the value conversation, but you also need to know how to close. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I love talking about this part. Absolutely. Good thing you didn't start off with it. Well, what I see is that there's usually two different types of people that come into the sales conversation. One is the hunter. They absolutely love the chase and the close, and they live for it. And as soon as they make the close, they get kind of bored with that client, and then they move on. And then there's the nurturer who loves the relationship. They have a little bit of a longer sales process because they really enjoy creating that rapport and the relationship, but they aren't very comfortable with asking for the close or the sale because they see it as a take when they're more inclined to want to be givers. Because of that, what I see is that we want to make the setup to where it doesn't feel like a bait and switch. And Domenic, I learned this the hard way. What happened very early on in my process in 2009, I was just learning about value conversations, just starting out in sales. I had a consult with a financial advisor who wanted to work with me. We had a great consult. I'd asked all the right questions. He was interested in the next move. And then it came to the point of the sale, of closing the sale. And somewhere within me, I could feel my energy changing around it because all of a sudden I went from really building rapport and focusing on him and his needs. And all of a sudden, when it came to the sale part, there was this switch going on within me about I have a new business, I have some bills to pay, I could use a new client, the money would be great. And by having that happen where I started to think about me instead of him, I lost the rapport that I'd been building with him this whole time. My tone of voice, my eye contact, my body language must have shifted somehow. And I couldn't stop it because I didn't know what was going on, but I could sense it. He could sense it too. And he asked me, why do you want to work with me? In integrity, I was transparent, saying that I know that I can help you and I could use a new client. At that point, he said, well, let me think about it. My heart just sank. We scheduled another appointment. And after he left, I vowed to myself I was going to figure this out. What happened was, like I said, I went from focusing on him to focusing on me. And what I needed to learn was how to remain just as present and engaged in what was in his best interest rather than my best interest, from the very beginning of the conversation all the way through to the very end. And that's where coming from the place of being a trusted advisor really makes the difference. It's not about a sales conversation any longer or about a close. This is about helping determine what's in the best interest of the client instead of what's in my best interest. Just like you had that experience yesterday with that particular person. Because of that, if it's not a good fit, that's okay. I'm not looking to close someone. And if it is a good fit, then I'm extending an invitation now. I'm not trying to close, I'm extending an invitation, and we're exploring what that next step forward would be that would be in this person's best interest. Does that answer the question? I know
it does.
Went a little bit long. Okay.
It makes absolute sense. I do have one little follow-up, though.
Please.
Is there a transition? Is there a smooth transition that you have that sort of allows you to extend the invitation? Is it, something like, okay, go ahead.
Yes, this is really golden because one of the things that happens as entrepreneurs is when we're getting into those questions, we're finding out all about the problem, we want to all of a sudden close and sell them then. That's a huge mistake. This is an advanced move. It's a huge mistake to try to enroll someone into working with you when you're in the problem part because they're in their pain. And when they're in their pain, from my study of neuroscience, we're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, which is the amygdala. It's the lower functioning parts of our brain that are now tuned into survival somehow. We cannot make a higher level decision of wanting to work with you when we're in that pain point. Therefore, you have to shift the conversation once again from the pain over to the potential or the possibilities. What you want to specifically ask them is a couple questions about what do you see as the benefits of us working together? What's possible for you once we resolve this issue? How can you tell if our work together was successful? And now they're once again into the potential. They can then have this conversation about next steps with you because now they're in the executive part of their brain, able to make higher level decisions where they can't do that when they're in the pain part of the conversation.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Boy, I think that is a real nugget right there that you've given to the M&A Unplugged community. Making that transition from asking the questions, really diving deep, getting the pain, finding out what is the next step to transitioning to a close is really an art form. And I think that's a big nugget. Loren, you've really shared a ton here. You've been great. This is awesome information. What would you recommend to our listeners who are seeking more information on how to close the sale?
Well, I actually have put together the sales script for your people because I know that they're busy. They can see the value of doing this. However, taking the time of figuring out all those questions themselves and then being able to implement it might not be where they want to be spending their time. Because of that, I put together how to have a value conversation. It's word by word. You can go ahead and make adjustments to make it really fit your personality and your service. That's at businesssuccesssolution.com/value. It's a complimentary free offer for your community. And please go ahead and grab that if it appeals to you. Once again, it's businesssuccesssolution.com/value.
That's awesome. That is tremendous. We will make sure, M&A Unplugged community, to have that in the show notes. The link will be there so you can easily get to that. Loren, this has been great. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you and have you share this information. If folks wanted to get in touch with you, how could they reach you?
The best way to reach me is to go to my website, once again, businesssuccesssolution.com. If they want to have a conversation with me, it would be /let's talk. So once again, businesssuccesssolution.com /let's talk. And they can then experience part of what I talked about here and see what it's like on the user side as well.
That's great. Loren, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
M&A Unplugged community, all of today's information will be available in the show notes. If you would like to learn more about the process of acquiring or selling a business, please visit our website at sunacquisitions.com, or feel free to reach out to me at drinaldi@sunacquisitions.com. I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of the M&A Unplugged podcast. And until then, please remember that scaling, acquiring, or selling a business takes time, preparation, and the proper knowledge.
Thank you for joining us today on M&A Unplugged. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and recommend it wherever you get your podcasts. If you want more great information on how to scale, acquire, or sell a business, please visit our website at sunacquisitions.com.